What if one day every other source of food vanished? All livestock, plants, fish, leaving only humans as the last available food? That's a question that sounds like horror, but also forces us to ask, how long could any of us survive in that scenario? In this video, we'll walk through layers of that question, the calories, the risks, and the math. By the end, you'll see whether this nightmare could ever stretch beyond a few days. First, let's establish something. Human bodies have been studied for their nutritional content. One analysis estimated that an average adult human body has somewhere between 125,000 and 145,000 calories in its fat, muscle, organs combined. That might sound like a feast, until you compare it to what's needed to keep even a small population alive. Let's break it down piece by piece. We'll cover how much energy a human body offers, how fast a group would deplete that resource, the disease and logistics issues, and whether there's any scenario where this could last more than weeks. Along the way, I'll use real science, hard numbers, and scenarios that you can picture in your head. No fantasy, just logic, data, and tough truths. Ready? Let's move into the first layer, calories and consumption. So, one human body might contain 125,000 calories. That includes flesh, organs, fat, etc. But not all of it is easy to eat or digest. For example, skeletal muscle might give about 32,000 calories of protein if stripped correctly. Other organs like liver, brain, fat stores, etc. add further calories, but with diminishing returns. Let's compare. Animals our ancestors hunted yielded far more calories. A mammoth's muscle mass could provide millions of calories. A human's caloric yield is puny in that context. So making humans the primary food source is already inefficient. It's like choosing to eat table scraps when you had a buffet. If a group of 25 people had only one human corpse, the body might stretch at best for a day or two. Assuming perfect usage, zero waste. But in real settings, some parts are unusable, some go bad, and some are dangerous. So the actual usable caloric yield would be even lower. This sets up a grim math problem. We're racing time and decay. Let's imagine a group of 100 people. Each person in a survival setting might need $2,000, 2,500 calories per day. That means the group needs ours or $200,000 to 250,000 calories daily to keep going. One human body can't satisfy a single day's demand for that many people. In fact, it would supply only a fraction of those needs. If every day the group consumed one body and some organs, etc., they would run out fast. In just days, the supply would vanish, and once the living outnumber the supplies, the dynamic shifts. Survival means harvesting from each other. A horrifying logic loop. In an extreme scenario, maybe half eat the other half once a month, etc. But that math is brutal. Disease, decay, and breakdowns in trust will ruin things long before the numbers run dry. In summary, calorie math makes this collapse quickly. It's not sustainable beyond weeks in almost any scenario. Even if you get some usable calories, there's a major enemy: pathogens. Human remains are not sterile. Bacteria, viruses, parasites, they lurk. Cooking helps, but doesn't eliminate all risks. Cross-contamination and disease spread are huge threats. In a tiny, desperate population, one infection can become a fast-moving epidemic. You're eating what your neighbors were sick with. Also, consuming brain tissue or spinal components can transmit prion diseases, rare but lethal. So your food supply might kill you faster than starvation. Decomposition also begins quickly, especially without refrigeration. Parts spoil, toxins form, so portions of each body become unusable over time. This further reduces your real yield and speed of survival. It's not just calories and germs. Logistics matter. Who gets eaten? When? How to ration fairly? Conflict, betrayal, fear. They all escalate fast in a collapse. Trust breaks down. Alliances shift. Also, transporting parts, butchering, preserving, all require tools, energy, and knowledge. Without infrastructure, much of the food gets wasted. Plus, emotional toll. Humans are not just meat. Psychological collapse can happen quicker than physical. Social order must degrade. Rules become brutal. Flip a coin. Draw lots. Fight. The ones left alive will be fewer, weaker, and more paranoid. This breakdown compounds every flaw in the system. Could there be a best case that extends survival? Perhaps in a small, disciplined group, 5 or 10 people, that consumes slowly, recycles, preserves, maybe supplement with other wastes, insects, fungus, minimal cultivation if possible. If they manage to preserve every piece perfectly, avoid disease and ration strictly, maybe stretch a few months. But months is optimistic, not years. Realistic fallback, collapse in weeks, then extinction. No scenario holds for extended time in pure human food world. Even in science fiction, pure cannibal-based survival fails fast. Better strategies always beat it. But using this thought experiment shows just how fragile life is when you cut off the basics. Next, let's sum up and see the final verdict. Humans simply don't have the caloric density to support a society. Disease, decay, logistics, social collapse all conspire to end the experiment early. This scenario isn't a sustainable fallback. If forced, you might squeeze survival for a few weeks under near-perfect conditions. But any real-world friction, theft, miscalculation, infection, will break it within days. It's a dead end, not a solution, but a warning. This extreme scenario highlights how dependent we are on agriculture, biodiversity, and ecological balance. It shows the fragility of systems we take for granted. Understanding collapse scenarios helps us appreciate stability. And ironically, it's not just horror, it's perspective. So that's what happens when humans become the only food left. A short-lived nightmare full of decay, desperation, disease, and death. It breaks too early to be a long-term plan. Better strategies always outcompete cannibalism. Questions like these sound violent, but they force us to examine human limits, biology, and society. They show just how weird and fragile our existence is. So while this scenario fails fast, it teaches more than a simple survive or die tale. Thanks for sticking through this thought experiment. If you enjoyed this kind of extreme scenario breakdown, there's more where that came from. Stay curious. Until the next strange question.